Chinese government's mouthpiece Global Times on Friday stated that if Doklam tri-junction issue is not resolved, then China will definitely be forced to use non-diplomatic measures to resolve the situation. It also stated that India's position will force China to prepare for military confrontation. The editorial also accused the Indian Foreign Minister Sushma Swaraj of lying in Parliament. The editorial states that China cannot lose a single inch of Chinese territory and directly blamed rising nationalist sentiment in India for flawed policies towards Pakistan and China. The editorial stated that the People's Liberation Army can reverse any imbalance on any part of the Chinese border in a single day. The paper is the mouthpiece of the Chinese government and concluded its editorial by stating that India should not let religious nationalism push the two countries into war. I am now joined by Mr. Shushwant Karim on the phone to understand a little bit more on this. He's a strategic affair expert. Thank you for joining me on the phone and thank you for helping me to figure out a little bit better what is going on. This is not new. Standoff between China and India when it comes to borders are not new, but what is new this time? Why does it look so difficult to find a peaceful way out? Who's to be blamed, sir?
Well, clearly, I would say the Chinese are to be blamed because they have ratcheted up the rhetoric and they have taken their jingoism to a point virtually of no return. And once you climb this high horse, then the person who climbs the high horse also has to climb down, which is not exactly a very pleasant sight. Now, the Indian position is very clear that the Chinese were trying to change the status quo. The Chinese never expected the kind of response they've received from India. Over the last almost 5-6 years, in various theaters around China, the Chinese have got into a habit of pushing the envelope, using force, projecting force, literally bombarding people with all sorts of cyber capabilities. And forcing them to kowtow to the Chinese. They probably thought this time around they'll get away with it yet again. But somehow they haven't managed to do it. So as a friend calls it, it's furious impotence which is being reflected. It shows a level of pettiness and petulance which normally people did not associate with China. Frankly speaking, the Chinese are not looking very good in the kind of intemperate language which they're using, the kind of jingoism which they're spreading through their media. And let's make no mistake about it, these media organizations are basically mouthpieces of the Chinese government.
Right.
What the Chinese government does not want to say directly, it uses these people to say. But clearly, they are plumbing new depths in the sort of discourse which normally should be guiding relations between countries or guiding policies of media houses. I think the Chinese have plumbed new depths and they're showing their true face to the rest of the world, which is something I would welcome.
Sir, very often, these kind of violent escalations do hide some sort of second objective. So, in your opinion, what is China really trying to achieve? Do they really want to keep their presence there? Do they really want to bring forward the fact that they consider that that part is an integral part of China? Or is there something we are not getting, something behind the scenes?
No, so there are two aspects to this. One is purely a tactical strategic kind of a thing that you keep, clawing out more and more space, you keep grabbing space. And just because China calls something its territory does not make it its territory. For example, there is absolutely no justification for the Chinese to claim the all of South China Sea as their own lake. But this is the logic of aggressiveness which they are following. Now, similar things have been happening along the Indian border. So at a tactical level, it is to grab whatever little advantage in whatever place they can get. That is at one level. But I think the larger strategic game plan is that they want to establish that they are the paramount power, they are the middle kingdom, and everybody around them has to literally go on bended knees before the Chinese. Many countries have been forced to do it for a variety of reasons. India has decided that where it serves its interest to cooperate with China, for example, on the Asian Infrastructure Bank and some of these other, the New Development Bank and some of these initiatives, we have cooperated with the Chinese, but where we think it's not in our interest, for example, on the One Belt, One Road, we have decided that we will not be a part of it, and where we think that we have serious objections, for example, on the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which passes through a part of Indian territory, clearly it is not acceptable to us, and we make our unacceptability very clear to the Chinese. So,
right.
So that is something they're not quite used to, because they're so used to everybody just going on bended backs before them that I think this is something they want to establish, that they are the paramount power and no other country can actually stand up to them. So clearly it is a combination of factors which is driving the Chinese slightly crazy, I would say.
And the Global Times directly attacked the Indian Foreign Affairs Ministry, Sushma Swaraj. So what does that diplomatically mean? Is it right to do so, sir?
Well, clearly, like I said, the Global Times is plumbing new depths, and frankly, I would treat it with utter contempt, the kind of language they have used. For a country which, pretends to be a great civilization, which pretends to be a rising power, which pretends to be the new global center of the world, the center of the new, global economy, for a newspaper from that country to use this kind of language, I think it shows them up for what they really are, which is very petty, petulant, and puerile. But beyond that, I don't think it behoves the government of India to react to what a Chinese rag writes about an Indian minister. I'm sure there would be enough Indian commentators and media houses who can respond to it in their own way without any government direction. That is one part of it. The other part of it is that the kind of unrestrained language which the Chinese are using is essentially they keep climbing on that high horse of theirs, and they will, somewhere along the line, they will have to back off. And if they don't, then they have to consider, in fact, the amount of damage this kind of language has done to India-China relations is something which will take years, if not decades, to put back, because all those earlier suspicions and distrust which India had about China has come flooding back, especially when China questions India's territorial integrity and sovereignty over Jammu and Kashmir, over Arunachal, over Andaman and Nicobar Islands. So all of this is now going to become a major issue between the two countries. And the Chinese have done great disservice to the cause of both mutual cooperation as well as regional cooperation.
Right. Thank you very much for joining me. This was Sushant Sarin, helping me to gather more information and a better understanding of a standoff between China and India. Now,